Looking for a fun way to raise money for your nonprofit, sports team, organization, or school? Not only does Lamar Marie Gourmet Popcorn have the most delicious gourmet popcorn, but they have a fundraising program that keeps things sweet and simple. No upfront costs, hidden fees, and y'all, it's easy. They set everything up for you. They'll set up a branded website just for you, and all you have to do is share the website link with your supporters. You keep 50% of every Lamar Marie Gourmet Popcorn you sell. Now, there's nothing salty about that. It's a sweet deal. To start your fundraiser, head over to lamarmarie.com and fill out their fundraiser registration form. Lamar Marie website is in the show notes.
What's going on, everybody? This is the Ground Up Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron, and this is
Keisha Rock.
And this is episode 42.
Today, we're bringing you Jennifer Counter. Jennifer is the owner of Counter's Tutoring Connection, and she's also a business consultant, helping aspiring entrepreneurs create a business of their own and build their business credit. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited. I love the introduction. That was wonderful. The background music and the little wording that's going on, that's really good. I love it.
Awesome. I'm so happy to have you here. So I gave a really brief introduction of you. Just tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and then how did your upbringing impact where you are today?
Okay. So I live in Houston, Texas. I've lived here most of my life. I was born in El Paso, but I have lived in Houston ever since I was a very small child. I think that my upbringing very much impacted who I became and my entrepreneurial journey. I'm the youngest of 16 children. So I have 8 brothers and 7 sisters, all by the same parents. And I'm the youngest in the family. And I think, you know, growing up, I saw my parents very much, everything was very systematic because we had so many children, right? My mom was very orderly. She was very procedural. And I remember, like, even as a kid, like when we did homework, like we had a certain spot in the house where we would go to, and you know, she literally unplugged the phone from the wall, like at a certain time at night. We had like a schedule where you could, you know, use the phone to talk to, you know, your friends or your boyfriend or whatever for a few minutes every night. So I think that watching her kind of be really orderly like that also impacted me just as a person, as a woman. And then my mom had a home daycare when I was in high school, more so out of necessity to kind of help the family. My parents, because I'm the youngest, were well into their elderly years when I was in high school. And so my mom had a home daycare. And so I think she was really like an entrepreneur before we even really talked about people being entrepreneurs.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, she went and got certified through the state, and she took classes, and she had to budget the meals and, you know, have spreadsheets for, you know, the payments and things like that. And so although it wasn't something that was classified as entrepreneurship and we didn't really talk about it, I think I saw it, and I think somewhere inside of me it kind of intrigued me a little bit. I actually went to school to be a teacher. In the beginning, I didn't become a teacher. I worked in the business world for about 10 years. And then I kind of had like a little bit of a life epiphany shift. And I said, you know what, I don't really think this is what I want to do. I was working in like accounting and finance and corporate management. And although I was making a good living and I was good at it, I didn't really feel like I was really fulfilled. And so I decided to kind of take a little bit of a sabbatical. I started volunteering at my daughter's school, and she was in kindergarten. And I ended up deciding to go ahead and get recertified so that I could become a teacher. And then I taught for about 10 years. And then I kind of had another epiphany where I decided, you know what, I think I want to do something else. And I decided to kind of merge those two.
Wow.
So, so I think my background in business, I think my background as an educator, and I think also my childhood upbringing, you know, when you're from a big family, you learn a lot of teamwork, you learn that everybody has a certain role to play and responsibilities. And I think all of that was very formative in helping establish me, you know, into what I really feel like is really walking into my purpose and what God really has for me, which is being an entrepreneur.
Wow. I'm blown away by you right now. 16?
16 kids. Yeah.
Wow. And the structure that I can imagine that had to be in the household to to make it a same place, like without many people.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, just going to the grocery store was like a huge endeavor. I mean, we're talking about like multiple shopping carts, right? Like many gallons of milk a week.
I mean, I can imagine.
Yeah. So I only have one. I stopped.
Oh, I love that. I love that you were like, nope, not doing it. My babies are my businesses.
Yeah. So I just have one.
So what was that transition like from, being a teacher, being, fully employed to launching out on you wanted to start your own business? How was that transition?
It was very scary. I'll be honest with you. I've never been married, so I was a single mom. I was raising my daughter by myself. I had a mortgage. I had just bought a new car.
Oh my gosh. Let me just say, and this is going to sound so judgy, but I was literally thinking in my head, oh, okay. So she was able to take a sabbatical and able to volunteer. She must've had a husband who was carrying the income in order for her to be able to do that, to have that luxury. Look at me. I was all wrong.
No. I mean, I think a lot of people thought I was crazy when I left my corporate job to become a teacher because I took a big pay cut and I left a lot of stability. But I
did it again.
Yeah. And then I did it again. But I, honestly, I had kind of been tutoring a little bit on the side out of necessity. But it's not like I had this huge stockpile or anything saved. When I made the decision, I had $500 in reserves in my bank account. So it wasn't like I had a whole lot of money saved up. But I just had this really strong gut feeling that I knew I was doing the right thing. And I don't know for other people, but for me, there's just been a few moments in my life where I have this kind of like a stirring where I'm like, I know for certain that I'm supposed to do something. I don't exactly know how it's going to pan out or how I'm going to make it happen, but I know that if I just step out on faith and I do the next right thing, that's what I used to tell my students when I was a teacher. Like when my students would kind of disagree about something, I would say, just do the next right thing, right? Or if they were struggling on an assignment, I would say, do the next right thing. And I was internally saying that to myself too, just do the next right thing. And so for me, the next right thing was, honoring myself and knowing that I had this feeling inside that I had a lot of other gifts that I wasn't utilizing, a lot of things that I think God had naturally placed in me, that when I was an educator, they were still there, but they very seldom really came up to the level of really that I thought they could. And so for me, I mean, it was a prayerful decision, but it was also, I had just came to a place where I was like, you know what, I just have to do it. So I cashed out my entire teacher retirement, aside from the $500 that I had. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to make a go of it. And I had already kind of had a little bit of a client base because I had been tutoring out of necessity for a few years. And I knew that I at least had some students to bring into the business. So I wasn't starting from zero. Right. And I tell people all the time, I knew I wasn't starting from zero because I was starting from experience.
Ooh, so, I like that.
Yeah, I had a lot of life experience, a lot of business experience, and I had a lot of educator experience. And I'm just the kind of person that I'm very focused and very driven. And even if I don't know something, I will fake it till I make it, first of all.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is I'll figure it out,
You figure it out. I mean, people like that is such a powerful statement that people just don't even understand. I'm going to figure it out. Yeah. We go into things and we're like, we think we have to have it all planned out. But, even if you have it all planned out, let me tell you, things are going to show up and you're going to have to figure it out.
Yes.
Yes. So you're 8 years into your tutoring business, right?
Yes. Almost 8 years,
Wow.
So the first 2 years, I'll be honest, the first 2 years, I didn't have an LLC. I didn't understand how to do any of that. I didn't know any of that. So I was kind of just like, even though, I had already started, I was still teaching. And so I was kind of just testing the waters a little bit out of necessity. And I'll be honest with you and tell you, like my first tutoring student, my goal in my head was like, okay, I just need a little extra money because I'm short on gas money every week, like straight up. Like it wasn't even like I was going into it to get rich. Right. And then when I had one tutoring student, I was like, okay, well now I can meet my gas need. And then something inside of me was like, well, what if you had like 3 or 4 more? Maybe you could like, I don't know, pay that light bill, pay that like water bill, So I kind of like did it like that. And then I started seeing like, I can really do this, and word of mouth, it's a word of mouth business. And so one person told another person and people found out about me and they called and they asked if I would be willing to do it. And that's kind of how I got started, to be honest with you.
So looking at your business, 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago when you started to, 1 or 2 to 3 clients, and was it just you, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, it was just me in the beginning. So the first year I only had one student. And then the second year I had like 20. And by the third I had 40 and I had three students.
So what is it?
At 20?
Yes.
So what is it? Yeah, that's what I'm going to ask you. So what does it look like? So now we get a big picture of what it started as. Now, 8 years later, what does it look like today?
So when it started, I only pretty much did elementary tutoring because that's where most of my focus was. I had taught a little bit of middle school too and a little bit of pre-K, but I was strongest in elementary. So I did what came easy to me, right? And then over the years, I would just add different grade levels and different subjects. And so now fast forward, we do everything. We do everything from pre-K all the way through college as far as tutoring goes.
So is it not just you anymore?
No, it's not just me anymore. So before the pandemic, we had, I would say close to probably 40 tutors on staff. Oh. And yeah, I've had interns.
It started with just you and one student.
Yes. Yeah. And I've had interns work for me. I've had like college interns work for me. I have a business manager now who's amazing. Sharon does a lot for me. I've been able to transition like the payroll and the scheduling. We have an accounting software. We have a tutoring software that we use now. I mean, we've literally gone from me just using like a little organizer and writing down students like pencil and paper to now everything is like very automated. There's processes and procedures in place. And I'm able to step away from the center for extended periods of time. I took my daughter to college this year and I was able to leave for almost a week and the center still runs very effectively.
You're real. You don't just work and the fact that you can step aside and it still runs properly, that says a lot to the level of business that you've created.
Thank you. Yeah. For me, that's the real beauty is that now I really feel like I have freedom and I have flexibility and it's not so much, I have to go to work at a certain time or I have to do things. For me, I love it. Like the other day I was having lunch at home and I was like, I remember when I was a teacher, like you have to have lunch like clockwork at a certain time every day. Now I just take a lunch whenever I want. So even little things like that are just like, that's really the real beauty of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. What does it, I always say something I preach a lot, it's level up, like you can level up along the way, just get started. So what would you attribute, and you're literally a perfect example of that. So what would you attribute to your level of growth? Was there like a pivotal moment when you were like, okay, this is working, I'm actually going to be intentional about growing this business? Or did it kind of just happen, which I doubt it kind of just happened, but it's possible.
I really think that to be a successful entrepreneur, the first thing is you have to have an extremely crazy work ethic. You have to be a really hard worker. The first 2 years that we got into the building, I worked 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, because I wanted to set all the processes into place. I'm very particular about the aesthetics, the way the center looks, even the way that it smells. Like we have a particular scent that we use. I'm very particular about the cleanliness, even before the pandemic. And, the attention to detail when it comes to taking care of our students and communicating with our parents. There's a procedure, how you greet the students, how you end the session, how you communicate with the parents after every session. So it took a lot of time to set all of that into motion. So I think your level of hard work and dedication, it has to, surpass 100% in the beginning. And then the other thing is, I think you have to just be really bold. I tell people that I'm not afraid to do anything now. Like I have, between building Counters Tutoring Connection and now building my second business, Jennifer Counter Consulting, and just the things that the business itself has survived. I mean, we've been through a hurricane. During the ice storm in Houston, 50% of my building flooded and we had to close for 2 months while we completely almost rebuilt everything up. And the building's like 1,300 square feet. And I walked in and it was literally 50%, like half of the wall, just everything was just covered in water. Technology was ruined, tables, chairs, the flooring, the baseboards had to be ripped up. I mean, and that was while my place was without electricity and without water, where I personally live too, right? And so, and then just surviving the pandemic too, being forced to close. We transitioned from being an only in-person tutoring center to then overnight becoming an online tutoring center.
Yeah.
And so I think when you go through some things like that, just like in life, right? Just like when you personally go through things as a person, it makes you, it builds tenacity in you and it builds perseverance. And I think that I've just gotten to a point where I'm just like, I don't like to go through hard things and I'm hoping that things, stay smooth for a while, but I know that I have skin in the game now. So I know that I have some grit, and I know that if it comes, that I'm willing to get through it, because I know that I've survived some other things in the past.
Jennifer, you're giving me chills. Oh, I love it. I love seeing a powerful woman. Okay, so what did it feel like when you started generating profit? Like, how long did it take for you to, I'm assuming you had to put some investment into getting the business to grow. And then what was it like when you realized, like I'm actually making a profit from this and this is actually supporting me?
Yeah. So the first 2 years that I had the business, I kept my overhead really low, and I would encourage all entrepreneurs, as long as you can, keep your overhead at zero or as low as you can to start building that profit. Number one, internally, it does something for you because you see the money coming in, and then you feel like you're really like, you're not just working, because it's hard. It's hard if you work and you don't see a profit, if you can't pay yourself. Right. So for the first 2 years, we tutored out of coffee shops. We tutored at public libraries. We did a couple in people's homes. I was trying out all different things. And I was really, to be honest, I was content because all of it was pretty much whatever money we made. I mean, I paid myself, paid the tutors, and then the rest was just overflow. And then the librarians, let the, public officials know that, yes, Ms. Counter's running a business out of the public library. So they ended up coming in there and saying, you and your 8 tutors, they're, accepting money from all these people. You guys got to go get your own building.
But at that point, could you afford to get your own building?
So at that point, I did not have the business credit because I didn't know anything about business credit. So at that point, I had just recently gotten my LLC. So on paper, my business was brand new, right? I had just gotten a legit bank account for a business account. I had just gotten an LLC. And so, that's one of the things that I talk about now in my consulting is build that foundation from day one. Because I didn't realize that with my first business. I wasted about 2 years of really building my business portfolio and who my business was from a structural standpoint. And so when I wanted to go and get a building, I had to personally secure everything. Everything had to fall underneath my personal credit, the building, the lights, the insurance, the taxes, the permits, everything. And that really tied up my personal credit a lot. And so a couple years into, maybe about 2 years into having the center and the business was seeing a profit, I said, you know what, there's got to be a better way to do this. I mean, how are all these businesses out here doing it? And I'm a really big reader. I read, anywhere between 2 and 5 books a week. And so I really just dug into a lot of reading, a lot of research. And I figured out okay, this is how businesses do it. They first lay their foundation and then they establish their business credit, and then everything goes underneath the business. And so that's where I am now. But to answer your initial question, when I started seeing a profit, I think the thing for me that was the most impactful is when the tutoring business not only paid me what I made as a teacher, but when it exceeded it. When it was able to double my salary as a teacher, I said, oh, I really got a good thing going here. Right.
Yes,
because when you can make what you did in your former career, you're like, okay, well, I can rationalize my decision and, I'm still living the same comfortable lifestyle. But when you're able to surpass that, yes, then you're like, okay, I'm really onto something here.
Yeah. Right. So there's a new business in town.
Golden Touch Mobile Detailing.
If you're in the Richmond, Virginia area and tired of riding dirty,
or you appreciate a deep clean,
book an appointment with Golden Touch Mobile Detailing. It's not your average car wash. Full interior and exterior cleaning, and Golden Touch Mobile Detailing comes to you.
It's the attention to detail to make you a returning customer.
Follow the Instagram at Golden Touch RVA and book your appointment.
I guarantee you'll be riding clean.
So, I can see from your experience and who you are what led you to, but I'm going to still ask you, and we're going to come back to that business credit too. But okay, what inspired you or led you to become, so you got this, you're rocking and grooving with this tutoring company, but now you decide you want to do, help other entrepreneurs start their own businesses and be a business consultant. What led you to that decision?
So I will tell you that when I first decided to start the tutoring business. It was my most difficult year as an educator. And it's not something I really publicly speak about a lot, only because I don't ever want it to come out negatively, but it was a very difficult year for me. And I had always loved teaching. I've loved my principals I worked with and my peers. And for a whole lot of reasons, it was a very difficult year. And I know looking back now, because I'm a believer, and I know that God made me very uncomfortable so that I would make a change.
Oh, can we stop right there?
Yeah.
I think that's so powerful. God made you very uncomfortable, so you
I'd make a
change.
Yeah, because honestly, I could have stayed being a teacher for the next 30 years and been content. I loved kids. I loved being a teacher. The first moment I would ever walked into a classroom and I taught a lesson, it felt like coming home. Even though I had been in the business world, it was very natural to me. And I knew that I was walking in my purpose and I felt very fulfilled. But for that particular year, everything was a challenge. Everything was uncomfortable. Nothing was working out. And I remember just having some really prayerful time and saying to God, like, what are you doing? Like, I've been waiting to get to this particular place and now I'm here. And why doesn't it feel wonderful? And I really kind of felt that stirring in me. That's because I have something else for you. And you just have to trust me and know that I'm going to lead you in the right direction. And when I really surrendered, for me personally, when I surrendered and just stepped out on faith and said, you know what? I'm giving it all to you. You know my finances, you know my situation, you know I'm a single parent, and I'm trusting that where I'm going is where you want me to go. And when I did that, to be honest with you, the doors really started to open. I mean, the connections that I made to get into an actual building, to expand, to do different subjects, to hire people. I mean, there was a lot I had to teach myself, right? About, tutoring contracts and negotiating a building and all these things. But I felt very strongly that someone was going alongside me, that even though I didn't have a business partner per se, like a lot of people do, I knew that God was definitely ordering my steps. And so for me to start this next business, I really, to be honest, I felt the nudging again. I felt the nudging that, yeah. I felt God saying that, I felt him saying, I have something else for you, Jen. That you're using a lot of your gifts and you're walking in your purpose and you were very obedient to me. And I do feel like that he has blessed my endeavors because of my obedience. But I also know that there was a lot of people out there that are in my position where I was, and don't know how to build business credit, don't know how to establish their foundation, don't know that you're supposed to have an LLC, or why it's important to have a relationship with a business, with a bank. All these little things that go into making a business, there's other people that need that help.
So let's talk about that. That's so I said I want to get back to business credit. And like I told you from the start, a lot of our listeners are small business owners. So will you just talk to us about business credit? What is it? Should every business have it? Why is it important? How do you use it?
Yeah, so business credit is it's very different than personal credit. I will tell you that. The scoring system is very different. You have just like with personal credit, how you have TransUnion and you have Equifax and Experian. With business credit, you have Dun & Bradstreet is the largest business credit builder. And then you also have Experian, and then you have Equifax. But the way that you generate your scores and the requirements that are needed, and the fact that you get actual points for your business being structured properly, for everything being the same as far as like phone numbers and addresses and all your paperwork being legit and credible. It's so many. I just literally had a call right before I jumped on here. I just had a call with a client and he was like, I just don't understand. Like, I got to do this. And I got to do this. And I said, it's a lot of little steps done right. And then you're going to look up and you're going to realize you've done it. You've done it, And for me, it was a lot of trial and error and a lot of research. And, I paid for some things that I didn't need and some things I should have paid for sooner. But to answer your initial question, it's very important. It's very important because when you get to a place where your business then can secure business credit, you don't have to put your what they call a PG, a personal guarantee. Right. You don't have to guarantee it anymore, And so for me, I've moved everything into the business: my cars, the utilities, insurance payments, credit cards. I don't operate anything for my first business with my personal credit anymore. And I'm now, halfway through doing the same thing with this, because I just recently started Jennifer Counter Consulting just a few months ago. And so I'm in the process of now building that foundation, and credit, and just repeating the process. So,
wow, I think that that's so important for listeners who are small business owners who are like, how are people operating? How are they doing this? Are they, doing it all themselves on their personal credit? No, you don't have to. So yeah. And I think also, so let's talk about you as a business consultant and credit, giving guidance. Like what can your clients expect to learn from you as they're aspiring entrepreneurs, or what guidance can they get from working with you?
Yeah. So I have clients on all different levels right now. It's kind of funny because I went very similar from, the tutoring, how the tutoring was just a word of mouth and it grew very quickly. The same thing has happened with the consulting. I have a lot of clients right now, and they're all in different industries. And the thing that I love about it is it doesn't matter to me what your industry is. We all need to have the same foundational skill set.
Yeah. And we all need process and procedures, CRM, like a lot of the cross industry, you need a lot of the basic foundation.
Yeah, the basic foundation. So I help with that, the actual like structuring your business, and are you going to do an S Corp or an LLC, or, we'll talk about bank accounts and what type of bank accounts and what banks are good, and then how to actually build your business credit, starting with your net 30 accounts to actually generate a paydex score, and then to build from there. And then, eventually get to a place where you can secure really big lines of credit. I will say that's one of the biggest differences between business credit and personal credit. If you guys probably remember when you had your first credit cards, right? Like maybe like in college or right out of college, it may have been like $2,000 or $3,000 and you were like, oh, I got $3,000 limit, it's like a big deal. But when you get to where you've really built your business credit into a place where it's considered trustworthy, I mean, your initial lines of credit are $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. I mean, big amounts of money. And then your loans, are $50,000, $100,000, $300,000, $500,000.
So do you manage business credit the same way you're told to manage personal credit, like pay it off, fully after you do your expenses? Is it kind of the same motto with the business, or is it different?
So the difference, I think, with business credit is they do want you to use it. They do want to see that you're using it, but yes, they do want you to pay it off. I tell my clients, if you are in a place where you can afford to make a payment, like set it on your calendar to pay like every Sunday night or every Monday morning, it will generate, extra payments, which generates a quicker score. If you're not able to do that, maybe do it like, every 2 weeks, but definitely pay it early. So if you know that your bill is due on the 30th, definitely pay it by the 24th. So you allow some days, because business credit sometimes does take a few days extra. Whereas like a personal credit card, I feel like a lot of times when you make a payment, it posts in, 2 to 3 days, right?
Right. Yeah.
But they definitely want you to utilize it, but to keep it, I try to tell people keep it below 30%, but if you can keep them below 10%, that's even better.
Wow, nice. So would business credit be something like once you're actually making a profit and, that's really? Okay.
No, business credit is like day one. So like all my clients, I have a new client who wants to open up a online boutique. And we just started about 2.5 months ago. She doesn't even have full inventory. She doesn't even have her website finished, but we're literally already starting to build the business credit. And so Dun & Bradstreet, your paydex score is what it's called. It's from 0 to 100. And we ran hers the other day and it's a 78 in 2.5 months. So 75 is considered, I would consider like a good credit score. You know what I mean? Like a 650, 700 for, if you translate it to like people scores, right?
Yeah.
So my goal for her and for all my clients is let's build this, let's get the foundation right. Let's build the business credit right. So that when you really do get to a place where your business is really running, you're not still pulling money trying to, get the business going. You're in a place where now the invoices are coming in and the credit's already established and the foundation's already established. And then that ball is just going to roll a lot faster.
At what point in your journey did you realize that this is what you should be doing? Or how did you even realize that?
So, I mean, I just love people. I love helping people just naturally. It's just in my spirit. And so I had a lot of friends and just people that I knew that were starting businesses. And I would be like, oh, you know what you should do? And I would just,
oh my God, I did that.
People that's like, oh, you give me advice. Like, I think I need to like walk around with a sign, like, do you want my advice? Yeah. So I was already helping quite a few people. And one of the ladies that I was helping, she was a friend of my daughter's. She was like a mom of one of my daughter's friends. And she looked at me one day and she said, Jen, you just got to stop giving away all this information for free, girl. Like, and I said, that's kind of funny because I feel like God's like been telling me like maybe I should like start another business. But there was a part of me that was like, I'm good. I already got a business. I'm okay. But I know when I thought about it from the standpoint of there's so many people that could really use the help.
Right.
And it comes very easy to me because I'm a teacher by trade.
Mm.
So teaching somebody how to build their business, teaching somebody how to have the mindset of an entrepreneur, how to overcome your fear, how to overcome your obstacles, that comes naturally to me because, as an educator, that's what you do. You teach, you motivate, you inspire, right? And so that part just comes out easy. So I don't feel like it's something I had to learn per se. I just feel like it's really taking everything I already know and just filtering it out.
So you also do mindset coaching, like you mentioned, and your experience with building your businesses and working with aspiring entrepreneurs. What is the most impactful mindset to have when pursuing entrepreneurship? Like, how should we be thinking?
I think that you should welcome every opportunity, good or bad, because even the most difficult situations teach you so much about yourself. They teach you so much about yourself as an entrepreneur. They teach you so much about yourself as an individual. And those lessons can be translated in so many different places in your life. So I think being willing to say, no matter what comes, I'm going to accept it and I'm going to learn from it and I'm going to make the best of it. And I think when you kind of shift your mindset to that, then when things happen or things come your way that are not ideal, you don't find yourself as overwhelmed by them. And the other thing is just like, being fearless, just deciding. I tell people all the time, everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Ooh, so true.
Yeah, everything you want's on the other side of fear. And when I say that to people, I remind them, there's a lot of people on the internet and there's a lot of people who are like, oh, this is what you do to be successful, but they've never done it, right? They've never walked that walk. So when I'm telling you that if you just stay the course and you do this and you keep trying, like I've been on this side and now I'm on the other side, right? So I want you to come on this side too. And I know how to get you here. If you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to try really hard and you're willing to learn to, there's obviously so much that I'm still learning as well. But I think your mindset is very important. You don't always want to be an entrepreneur. There's days you wake up and you're like, yeah, I don't really want to be responsible for all this today, Yeah.
And I almost feel like it's, and how can I say this? I almost feel like we're almost programmed to I guess it's the whole worker bee concept, to wake up and like be told what to do. And when you're pursuing building a business, you don't really, have anyone telling you what to do per se. You're
to come up with that.
Yeah, you have to come up with your structure. You have to come up with, your routine and, what's going to be the next best thing to do,
Mm-hmm. You do. And you have to be accountable to yourself.
That's
one of the hardest things that I think I see entrepreneurs struggle with is that you're, like you just said, right? They were used to being at a job where they told them what time to come and what time to leave and what time to take lunch and what time to take breaks and how to feel about their job and how to, what their job description was. And when you're an entrepreneur, you have to create all that for yourself. Now, that kind of goes back to the mindset, right? Because you can look at that and be really overwhelmed by that and be like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Or you can look at it and be like, well, it's pretty amazing. Like I get to create my own, I get to decide, what my title is. I get to decide how much money to pay myself. I get to decide what time I want to go to work or when I want to take a vacation. Yeah. So I think it has a lot to do with how you look at it, but you do have to be very structured and very organized, in my opinion, to be successful in entrepreneurship, because there's not somebody holding you accountable. You have to be your own accountability person.
Absolutely. Right. Do you have daily practices or a routine that helps you accomplish your goals within your business and your personal life?
I do. So I have just a personal saying that I don't meet with anybody before I meet with God. And
preach.
Yeah. So I get up every morning and that's my first, initially, I started it probably 10 years ago, and I was still a teacher and I had a small child at home. And so maybe it was only 10 or 15 minutes. Right. And I would just start my day and try to be centered and give my first to God. And now, because I have a lot more flexibility, I'm very grateful that that time is extended. I mean, sometimes it goes well over an hour and a half.
Wow.
And, that time now for me is, what it looks like for me is I just say, to God, like, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? And who do you want me to help? And I start, and I just say, speak, Lord, your servant's listening. Like what, I'm your vessel. So I know that you have a plan for me and you have a purpose for me. And so I want to, as much as I can, be in alignment with that. And so for me, starting that day with that prayerful intention and setting all that into motion, that's very important for me. And then the next thing that I do is I check the emails for both businesses. I check the bank accounts for both businesses. And I look at the schedule for both businesses and make sure, everything's good. I take care of anything that needs to be done. I usually make a to-do list the day before for that day. So I already have my to-do list prepared. And I'm a very big checker offer because it gives me a sense of satisfaction.
I'm with you. Are you a Virgo?
Yeah. I want to know that I'm getting things accomplished. And I think it's important to say that sometimes you don't get everything done. I mean, I don't think any day I get everything done because, some days I'll have 15 things on there and I'm like, hey, Jenny, you're not Superwoman. It's not.
Jennifer, are you a Virgo by chance?
I'm not. I'm a Cancer.
Okay. I always just attribute it to the checklist and the satisfaction. It's got to be the Virgo in me. But I'm with you on that for sure.
Yeah. But I'm very big into procedures. I think that has a lot to do with my temperament, has a lot to do with being a teacher as well. Everything is very structured and orderly. And I think that has served me well. So that's one of the things that I help my clients with sometimes. I have a client that I'm meeting with next week and she has a business and she's making a little bit of money, but there's really no system in place for the accounting. She's kind of, doesn't really know how to receive payments, how to post payments, everything's just kind of receipts everywhere. And it's causing her a lot of internal frustration. And so that's one of the things that we're going to talk about is kind of onboarding and getting some systems in place and then getting her hooked up with an accountant and a quick person who does QuickBooks who can kind of help structure and organize her business a little bit more effectively.
At any point in your journey, did you ever seek out a business coach or a coach in general?
No, I didn't because I couldn't afford one. To be honest, I mean, I'm just going to keep it real. I couldn't, I always heard people talking about it, oh, you should have a business coach or you should have you should have a therapist. I mean, people always talk about and I was just as a single mom, there just was no money for that. Yeah. So instead I would go to the public library and just get books. And until I really got to where I was oh, I really like these business books. And then I, would start buying them so I could keep notes and stuff in them. But, and
meanwhile, you didn't even realize you were becoming the business coach.
Yeah. I mean, I think that life's kind of like that. Sometimes I think you walk into your purpose and you don't even realize it, right? Just what you're already doing is just naturally kind of preparing you. And it's just, it's like that with me with the tutoring center. I had taught a lot of different grades, a lot of different subjects. I have 5 certifications in the state of Texas. I've taught everything in elementary school, some things in middle school. I did special ed, GT, ESL. And every year my principal, I'd go to another school or same campus and she'd say, oh, I want you to move from, kindergarten to 5th grade or 5th grade to 7th grade. And I'd say, in my head, I'm looking at Susie next door who's taught 1st grade for 20 years. And I'm like, why won't God just leave me in 1st grade?
Little did you know you were being prepared though.
Yes. And that's exactly it. So now when I have a tutor who has a question about a particular grade or has an area of struggle, most of the time it's something that I've experienced myself or something that I've learned. And so it definitely helps prepare you.
Yeah. What would you say has been the most challenging thing or is the most challenging thing about starting or running your business?
That's a great question. Somebody just asked me that. I did a magazine interview and they just asked me that same question. So I'm going to try to give you a different answer than I gave them. The most challenging thing. I think one of the challenging things is sometimes it's hard because you think that the people closest to you are really going to support what you're doing.
Oh, here we go.
You think they're going to be your biggest cheerleaders. I had a friend who I considered her a friend. We'd known each other a long time, and she had a marketing company. And I remember when I started my tutoring business, I naturally kind of went to her and wanted some advice. And I remember being willing to pay for it, maybe not as much as some of her clients, but I wasn't necessarily asking for free. And she just kind of made me feel like, yeah, you're just not really big enough for me. It was just, it really hurt me. It did, because I kind of thought like, that was somebody, since she was an entrepreneur and she had marketing experience, I expected her just to open the gates and help me out, you know? And, you know, just even people close to me, even, you know, some friends and family, like people that I know that really loved me and wanted what was best for me. I think that they wanted me to kind of just stay where I was and keep playing small because it was safe, you know, and they didn't want to see me struggle or see me fail or see me hurt. And so a lot of it
bless their heart.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just, you have to decide what you know is best for you. And then you have to be willing to do it, even if you don't get the applause and the accolades from everybody else. And, you know, I think that's just part of your journey, you know, and that's part of that boldness, you know. I think that boldness comes into play, and that tenacity comes into play, where you say, you know, even if you don't believe in what I'm doing, or you don't think I'm headed in the right direction, it's my life to win or fail. So I'm gonna just, you know, make my own choices.
Yeah. Where would you like to see your business in the next few years?
Which one? The tutoring or the?
I mean, yeah.
Businesses.
Your businesses. Let's talk about both. Yeah.
So I'm really enjoying where I'm at with the tutoring business. I've stepped away from the tutoring significantly. So I went from, you know, tutoring 40 hours a week when I first opened the business to now I tutor, I think I have 5 students. I think I tutor 5 hours a week. And that's really more students that we get that are really far behind and just really need a lot of confidence and a lot of love poured into them. And I know that I'm able to do that. And so I'll take them on, you know, with the parents understanding that it will be for a short time until I feel like they've progressed a little bit, and then I'll transition them to another tutor. And not because the other tutors aren't amazing, they are. It's just I know that there's some things that I'm really good at, and I have a heart for kids, and so you know, occasionally I'll take on a student for those reasons. But I'm loving where I'm at now because I'm really able to just manage and facilitate the business. And, you know, I was having a conversation with a tutor one day, and I was explaining to him that my job is to be the big picture person. My job is to see everything, just the overflow and the umbrella of everything. And so I don't focus a lot on the small details. I've gotten to a place where I feel comfortable, you know, allowing the tutors to do their job, or allowing my business manager to do her job, so that then I can then look over, you know, the big concept, right? So I'm really enjoying that place of transition that I'm in. That's a good feeling. I'd like to see the tutoring center continue to grow. I'm not sure if I'll open more locations or if we'll just get a bigger building. I'm probably leaning towards just a bigger building. And as far as the consulting business, I'm really liking that. I've done some public speaking. I'd like to do some more of that. I love pouring into people. I like encouraging people and inspiring people and letting them know that there is literally no difference between me and you, that in our humanness, we're exactly the same. And so if you have a goal and a dream and it's something that you want to accomplish, that I want to be able to encourage you in that. And then as far as the consulting goes, it's funny, when I first decided, I didn't even decide that credit was going to be a part of it. That literally just happened like a month and a half ago. Yeah. And it was only because so many people were like, hey, I heard you knew something about credit, like, you know, and so I really think that that's going to kind of grow organically into its own thing as well. So I'm just really excited. I'm hopeful. I'm excited about all the people that I'm going to be able to help along the way. I want to see us all win. You know, I think that there's room for all of us at the table, and yes. I want to see everybody, you know, prosper and grow and succeed in their own right.
Absolutely. All right, let's end with, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone starting their entrepreneurship journey?
What is one piece of advice?
I mean, you've given,
I think my biggest
a lot.
Some great advice.
Yeah. Thank you. I think my best piece of advice is do something that you're already interested or passionate about. So for instance, I'm not really that great of a baker. Like, I can make pretty good chocolate chip cookies, but you're never going to see me like baking cakes, and like, that's just not my gift. I mean, I guess I could learn it probably, but it doesn't come naturally to me, right? Like, I like to eat them, like, you know, like everybody else, but you know, I think you should do something that you already have a passion or a natural inclination or desire for, because it will come that much easier to you. like children for me was very natural. Like I love kids. Kids love me. It's just, it comes very easy. And education has always been very important to me. I think it's a great foundation to open up a lot of doors for you. So for me, going into becoming a teacher and then becoming an entrepreneur and opening a tutoring center was a very natural transition. And the same thing with the consulting. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been at the bottom. I know the system. I know how to make it work. So my advice would be, don't get into something because you see other people doing it and you're like, oh, that looks really good. To me, I kind of tell people, it's like when you see somebody wearing clothes, right? Like, I'm not going to wear what everybody wears because everything doesn't look good on me. I mean, like some things may, right? You got to decide, you got to try them on, decide if it looks good on you, but don't just walk out and do something just because you see, somebody else doing it. Yeah. Because what's for them is for them and what's for you is for you. And so spend more time focusing on what is for you versus looking at what's for them.
Right. But like you said, sometimes you have to try it on so you can find out what's for you, right?
Sometimes you do have to try it on. Sometimes, but I think you should have like a little bit of already like a
know
little
what size you are.
Yeah, you should already have like, little something that makes you know that this might actually work out.
I love it. All right, Jennifer, we've reached a point in the show where we play a little game. Are you ready?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's easy.
All right.
We're going to play Would You Rather This or That. Let's go.
That's kind of cool. Okay, I can do that.
Would you rather spend the day doing absolutely nothing or spend the day jam-packed with commitments?
I'm going to choose the other one because I feel like the jam-packed part I've done a lot. So give me the day where I can just, I love going on a beach and just drinking a margarita and just relaxing. I'm all about
absolutely nothing. All right, this or that, read a book or listen to a podcast?
Read a book.
Read a book. Would you rather win a trip or win a new car?
I mean, we're talking about a Pinto here, like
a brand new car or a nice, maybe tropical vacation.
I guess a car because it's an asset. I'm a businesswoman, so I'll take the car.
Okay. This or that, coffee or tea? Tea. Would you rather fall asleep to the sound of the ocean or nature sounds?
The ocean.
The ocean. I'm with you on that. All right, Jennifer, this has been so informative, so inspiring. I've really enjoyed learning your story, and I'm sure the listeners have too. So how can they reach you?
So you can reach out to me if you're in need of tutoring. We now do virtual tutoring. We also help students from other states. We've even had a couple international students. So you can reach out to our website is www.counters, that's COUNTERS, tutoring.com. There's a questionnaire online you can fill out and we can, get connected with you to help your students. If you're interested in mindset coaching, if you're looking for a podcast guest, a public speaker, business coaching, strategizing, building business credit, any of the above, you can reach out to me at Jennifer at jennifercounter.com or info@jennifercounter.com, or you can look at my website, which is going live next week. I'm excited. And that's going to be www.jennifercounter.com.
And you guys know it'll be in the show notes. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, guys. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. Y'all are awesome.